Terminator Dark Fate is the latest installment in the long-running Terminator franchise. It was directed by Tim Miller of Deadpool fame, was released last year and stars Linda Hamilton and Arnold Schwarzenegger. It is the sixth installment in the Terminator franchise. I had to think there. However, it is intended as a direct sequel to Terminator 2, ignoring the events of Terminators 3, 4, and 5. Now, this is a franchise that I have long been intrigued by. I have seen all of the films, even though some of them have fallen to the doldrums. The first two are solid action films, solid science fiction films, and I really love that first Terminator movie as a sort of strange hybrid. It's science fiction, action, horror, film noir almost. It's a really great film. It's one that I watch probably about once a year. Terminator 2 is fine. I don't like it as much as the first, but it is a solid film. And sadly, everything that's came since then has been sort of pointless and disappointing. Um, I didn't want to discuss the franchise as a whole for too long. Um, my thoughts on this film, on Dark Fate, are that I generally liked it. I was entertained while watching it. It was after the film, however, that I started to think a little bit about what happens in it and some of the sort of implications of the plot. And it's a it is a deeply frustrating and disappointing film. I think I think what frustrates me about it isn't so much the plot of the film, which is okay. I mean, I'll discuss some of the things I liked in the film, but I just found the film's existence frustrating. It disappoints me that there couldn't have just been a solid sort of science fiction film with plot elements from this in its place. I don't know why it had to be yet another Terminator sequel, and I think the effects of this film on the franchise as a whole are quite damaging, quite bad. But I'll get into that in a minute. The thing, watching the film, as I said, I was entertained. Um, Linda Hamilton comes back. I think this is her first film role in quite a long time. She was in a lot of films in the 80s and 90s. She is that. Her trademark is playing characters who are strong but vulnerable. You see that with her character in the first two Terminator films, and some other roles that she's done, like Children of the Corn. She has been in lots of things. It's just hard to actually think of them apart from Terminator. But she's a solid actress, and she's really good in this. She's really no nonsense. She has some sort of really nice dramatic moments and it feels like she's playing the Sarah Connor from the first two Terminator films. It does feel like a continuation of that, and you're even, I guess, close to 30 years after she's last played the character. She still has that gravitas. And I thought her performance was great. She was good to watch on screen. What they do with the character though frustrates me, and I'll get into that in a minute. Arnold Schwarzenegger shows up in the film. Um, his role in this is great. This was the point. This was a high point of the film. He's so funny. I mean, I genuinely thought that the scenes where they introduce Arnold's character towards the end of the film were very humorous. I really enjoyed that part of the film more than any other part of the film. Um, and then I guess I liked some parts of the plot. I liked the part where they have to get from Mexico into the United States, and there's some interesting set pieces when they're trying to cross the border. Um, I'm just going to say full spoilers for this review. If you've not seen the film, or if you don't want to know what happens, I wouldn't listen to this review. Or if you're just not enjoying it, I guess yeah, I guess you don't need to listen to the rest of the review in that case. But so they cross the border into the United States. The set piece that happens there, I thought that was all great. Um, the action, I guess we need to comment on that because first and foremost, this is an action film. I think more so than sort of science fiction and other elements. Um, it's a mix. It's a mixture of uh, quite effective small scale fight scenes. I particularly like the scene in the factory at the beginning of the film. That was good. But most of the action just gave me a headache. Okay, the action in this film for the most part was not really for me. I think for action to be effective, I think it really needs to be grounded. The smaller the action, the better. So that's why I liked the factory scene at the beginning, because it was in a more sort of self-contained um, space, and also they were doing some interesting things with the camera work. I thought were quite interesting in that scene. But the ending, oh my God, the ending of this film just it was when I realised I guess the film just it wasn't really working for me. So there's this crazy set piece. It's after they intercept Arnold. He's living in Texas as a drapery salesman, which is very very funny. I wish the whole film could have been about that. But they go to this military base and they hijack a jeep, and then they hijack a military jet, which is then intercepted by the bad Terminator. Then it explodes. Then they get back into the jeep, and then the jeep crashes from the air into Hoover Dam, and then they're under the water. And I just I just remember thinking, I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger and Linda Hamilton are like two senior citizens. Really, is this really what it's come to? You know, they can't create original scripts and original films, so they have to have these ridiculous movies where you get these two old actors that were famous, that were action stars 30 years ago, and have them be involved in these insane set pieces. Um, I guess that's what frustrates me about this film. It's not so much the film itself. The film's fine, but it's more just what it represents for films generally. There's no originality really in Hollywood anymore. Everything has to be a remake or a sequel or a prequel to something else. Um, and even the plot of this film. Okay, this gets more into why the film overall within the Terminator franchise frustrated me, and it was a problem I had with Terminator 3 as well. The one with the women Terminator, where the world ends, the climax of the film. Um, the strength of Terminator 2, which, as I said, I didn't like it as much as the first Terminator movie. It has problems, but the strength of that film comes from the theme. The theme being there is no fate but what we make for ourselves. In that film they change the future. They stop the At the end of the film you're led to believe that the Armageddon doesn't happen. And that was a great ending. Really, it should have just been those two solid films. But with Terminator 3 and now with this film, it turns out there is a fate. Robots are going to take over no matter what. Even in this film, this was it Skynet from the previous films, it doesn't exist. So Sarah Connor does succeed in wiping that out, but something new takes its place. A new sort of operating system that coincidentally also triggers, nuclear holocaust. Coincidentally, also produces these Terminator robots that are aesthetically identical to the ones that Skynet created. They also create time travel. They also want to wipe out all humans, and they also have this sort of harebrained plot to send a Terminator back in time to kill the leader of the resistance when she's like a 20-year-old. And it rides a fine line. It's a remake. It's essentially a remake of the original Terminator film, just in the same way that Star Wars: The Force Awakens was a remake of Star Wars: A New Hope. And really, when I thought about the film as a whole, and when I realised just how derivative a lot of the plot points are, even down to humanity sends back albeit augmented cyborg kind of human to look after the future leader of the resistance. Even down to that, I just felt it was a bit tired, and it really annoyed me the longer I thought about it. Um, but at the end of the day, I'm judging the film in isolation. One or two of the action pieces were fine. I liked all the performances. To be fair, I can't fault them, particularly Mackenzie Davis's character. She's the human that gets sent back to look after the future leader of the resistance. That she was great in the film. I like that they gave her a bit of a bit of stakes really. You know, every now and then she has to like she crashes if she you know fights too hard. I thought that adding little things like that gave a bit of tension, and that was interesting. And it was fun to see both Arnold Schwarzenegger and Linda Hamilton back on the big screen. It was fun to see them. I just hated what it was in service of. Really, I really wish, you know, Tim Miller. You know, he obviously knows how to handle a camera. He obviously knows how to make a film. Even though I didn't like, I'm not talking about Deadpool, which I didn't really care for. But with this film, it's clear that he knows how to make a film. And I just wish they'd taken elements, either take elements from this story and create an entirely new story based in science fiction, or even make it sort of science fiction western. I mean, I thought a lot of the aesthetic of the film reminded me of like Logan or something like that. I thought run with that, you know, or even just make a film where Arnold Schwarzenegger plays an ex-Terminator who now has a wife and sells curtains. You know, make it a comedy. I mean, why not? You know, it would have been more, it would have been better than this, and that was, as I said, the strongest part of the film. Um, so overall, I didn't hate the film. As I said, entertained while watching it. I just didn't like it as a installment in the Terminator franchise, and as a just overall what it represented. You know, it's just the latest in a long line of sequel, reboot, remake, mishmash, whatever you want to call it. Um, and so for that reason, I'm going to give Terminator Dark Fate 48 out of 100. As I said, entertaining, but it just the way that I felt after watching it brought it below average. If not for that, I'd say maybe in the 50s, but just for what it represented, that brought it below the average point for me. Um, and yeah, those are my thoughts on Terminator Dark Fate.